Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. Merry Christmas, everyone. In this video, I'd like to talk about the bigger picture of the crypto bull run. I want to take this chart, which is the total 2, and compare it to various different charts, starting with Bitcoin and then moving on to other altcoins. That way you can get a bigger picture of the overall crypto bull run, where we are, what we still have left to go. So let's dive in and get started. Okay, so there are two different charts here. The chart on top is total 2. Now total 2 is all of crypto except for Bitcoin. So it's the entire crypto market minus Bitcoin. On the bottom is the Bitcoin chart. Now I want to compare these charts to each other, and I want to focus on the 2021 bull run structure and the 2017/2018 bull run structure. Now, it is my belief that Bitcoin has already peaked. I recently just made a video on why I believe that is the case. You can watch it over here. In there, I lay out my reasonings, and maybe you'll disagree, maybe you'll agree, but I believe you should check it out either way. So it is my belief that Bitcoin has a repetitive structure when it comes to its bull run structure, or more likely the recovery and then the bull run. You can see on the bottom chart there's boxes that are labeled 1 through 4. The first box is the first part of the Bitcoin bull run or the recovery. The second box is the same. The third box is where it begins to move up more aggressively. It gets above the previous all-time high, and it also includes a substantial pullback on that third box. The fourth box is the final part of the bull run structure. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to focus on the fourth box on the Bitcoin chart, and we're going to compare it against total 2. Now, on total 2, that box that I have there aligns with that fourth box. So let's start with the 2017/2018 bull run structure first. Okay, so here we are zoomed in on this 2017/18 bull run structure. Now on Bitcoin, it's 2017. The decline starts in 2018. On the total 2 chart, it's a little different. Now, this dotted line, you're going to have to pay attention to it. They're not completely aligned in the sense that they're both moving at the same pace on each chart, but wherever I move it is where that would be on the other chart. So they're aligned in that sense. So you can see that Bitcoin moves up in this fourth ending part of the bull run structure. Now Bitcoin's on the bottom. It peaks out. However, on the total 2 chart, it's not quite peaked out yet. There's still a lot more room. So let me use an arrow to make that a little clearer. So here is the peak, but that peak is actually somewhere around here. It's right here on the total 2 chart. So we see that Bitcoin peaks first, and it gives total 2 time to move up into its peak, which takes place later on in 2018 as Bitcoin is in distribution. So by the time the total 2 chart peaks, Bitcoin is already well into its distribution phase over here. So in this example, Bitcoin peaks before the total 2 chart. Let's go look at the 2021 bull run structure. Okay, so here is that fourth box in the 2021 bull run structure where Bitcoin comes to its peak. Now this box is correlated with the total 2 chart up here. So we see a different story take place here. We see Bitcoin come to its peak at the same time that the total 2 chart comes to its peak. So historically speaking, we have 2 different possibilities. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to take this fractal that we see on the 2021 total 2 bull run structure, and I'd like to copy and paste it onto today's chart. I'd also like to compare what is taking place on today's Bitcoin chart. Okay, so here is that fractal copy and pasted onto today's chart. Now I split this 2021 bull run structure part into two parts. So there's this part and then there's this part. And the reason why I did that is back in 2021, the total 2 chart played out a little differently. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So it started moving up aggressively from the get-go, whereas on today's chart, this portion did not move up at the same aggressive rate that it did back in 2021. Instead, it goes kind of flatter, and then it starts moving up. Here we are back at today's chart. So this is the part that remained sort of flat before beginning to move up. But as you can see, it does match what is taking place on today's chart. So this tells us that we are copying the concept that we saw back in 2017/18, where Bitcoin peaks first, but total 2 doesn't peak quite yet. So this peak corresponds to right here on the Bitcoin chart. As Bitcoin moved up to its peak, total 2 went into its decline. However, as you can see, we still have this part remaining on today's chart. So we are following the 2017/18 model, whereas Bitcoin will likely go into a distribution phase. The rest of the crypto market is going to have its blow-off top, if you will. Now, the timing of this is just a guess, but it has been playing out at this speed, and if it continues to play out roughly at this speed, we can expect the peak to be somewhere in late January, early February. Now, things could speed up or slow down, so this is just an estimation. Okay, so what I'd like to do next is I'd like to compare a few different crypto charts to the total 2 chart. Now, in this one, I have the total 2 chart at the bottom, and I have the crypto charts that I'm comparing to at the top. So this first one that we're going to look at is H-bar. So first thing to note is note where H-bar comes to its current peak right here. That happened to take place before total 2 came to its peak. What that means is that some cryptos might peak before other cryptos do. So money might rotate from one crypto to the next as total 2 works on this move up to its peak. So understand that not everything is going to peak potentially at the same time. Another really important thing to understand about fractals in general. So when a fractal repeats, the basic idea copies over, but the timing, the height, and the depth, those things will be original to the new iteration of the structure. So what that means is that the way I have drawn or stretched out these fractals could be incorrect. It could potentially move up higher than what I have shown here, or maybe not as high. It could also play out in a shorter time frame or potentially a longer time frame. Those are really important concepts for you to understand. What that also means is if you're trying to compare what price is to what I have drawn, you may potentially be disappointed. This is just a suggestion of what the remaining structure looks like. It's not a prediction of price. Please understand that, or of time. Okay, so now that we have those key concepts out of the way, let's talk about H-bar. A lot of you have asked me about H-bar. So H-bar has a repetitive bull run structure. As you can see, I have 2 different fractals on here. This black fractal is the first H-bar bull run structure that took place. This was in 2020. The second one, this purple one, is the most recent iteration of the bull run structure, and this took place in 2021. As you can see, they're similar. They echo each other. And today's chart echoes these 2 structures. So price moves up to a key point in all of these structures where you have the largest kind of pullback take place before eventually moving up into the final leg of the bull run structure. It is my belief that we are currently working through this point where it pulls back, has the largest pullback, and we still have the final leg up, the blow off top, if you will, to the peak. I don't know where that will be. Another really important thing to understand about the H bar structure is that it moves up into the first peak and then it winds its way all the way down to a low, and then it eventually, at least it has done every single time in the past, it moves up again and challenges this peak. Sometimes that second peak is higher, sometimes that second peak is lower than the first peak. I don't know how that will play out this time, but it's something to be aware of and keep an eye on. Let's move on to another crypto so we can compare it to this total 2 chart. Okay, so this is the XRP chart. Note where this current peak before this pullback takes place. It takes place before total 2 comes to its peak. Again, reinforcing the fact that different charts will peak in different places. Now, XRP has a repetitive bull run structure as well. It has 3 main corrections on the way to its peak. We have completed the first one right here. We've completed the second one over here. This one takes place in 2 different parts, and we are currently working on the third one. This third one, as you can see, is much, much larger than these other 2, and that, believe it or not, is kind of normal. Any one of these, mainly the first one or the third one, are the bigger of the rest. So in this case, it's the third one, and eventually it will move up. Now, this fractal is from right here. And the reason why I can use this fractal is because a chart tends to repeat themes from its recent past. So this recent history fractal is part of the theme that XRP has been repeating. Actually, if you examine this structure right here, it's also very similar as well as this one. This is just a possibility. It may play out a little different. And again, the timing, height, and depth may mean that if it does continue to follow this, the way it plays out may also differ from what is shown. So just be aware of that. Now, in my most recent XRP video, I talk about how to nail the peak. Link to it right here. I highly suggest you watch it if you want to try to sell at the peak. The move up to the peak is a repetitive structure. There are moves you can actually count. In that video, I go into it in depth. Once price gets above that green trend line, it moves up to the peak. Let's move on to another crypto chart. Okay, so this is Ethereum, and look where Ethereum peaks out. It peaks out much later than the other 2 ones have peaked out, which were closer to the top of this or before it even began pulling back. Now, this is Ethereum's 2017/2018 bull run structure. As you can see, we have been following it. What we're missing is the final leg up. I don't know how high this will move up. We also have this portion right here. I believe I have this laid out correctly. I could have it a little off. As of now, I think this is how it's playing out. Now, Total 2 still has some more declining to do potentially. How that affects this is yet to be seen. If it plays out like this, Ethereum could potentially peak later in the game. Time will tell. That's just speculation. I really don't know. Let's move on to another chart. So this is Doge, and this fractal is the 2017/2018 bull run structure. I've been waiting for this pullback. I've been telling friends of mine that have Doge that there's going to be a pullback, and it's finally taken place. So as you can see, there is the remaining final leg that takes place. And let's compare where this peaked out at. So this originally, you know what? This could actually be the peak or this one. So if that's the actual high, it looks like it could be. It peaked way over here. So this one peaked really early on. Again, how this remaining part plays out with the timing, height, and depth is yet to be seen. This one looks like it could kind of come to a peak late in the game. Again, we'll have to see how it all comes together. The alignment on this could be off a little bit. Time will tell how this plays out, but just be aware that it has another leg up before it's the end of the line on Doge. Let's look at another chart. Okay, so this is Cardano, and as you can see, it peaks out sort of where a lot of the other cryptos did. It's It's a little earlier before Total 2 comes to its peak. But once again, as you can see, it has a final leg up to its peak. So folks, I hope you're seeing a common theme here, that most of these structures that I'm showing you are missing just the final leg up. Now, it's not all like that. Let me show you a chart that's not like that. This is Casper. Now, the structure I have here is from its recent history, but this is only the first corrective part in its bull run structure. So it's really just beginning. This one could potentially peak out later than a lot of the other cryptos. Again, that's speculation. I don't know that for sure, but the fact that this is still in its first corrective structure could potentially mean that coins like Casper and maybe other ones could be late bloomers and peak towards the end of the Total 2 bull run structure. Okay, so here we are on a clearer picture of Total 2. This is on a 3-hour candle chart. I hope through this video you got a feel for how this crypto bull run has been progressing. On a lot of these structures that we looked at, the phase that we're going into, the last leg up to the peak, is really the blow off top for a lot of these charts. So if you have a crypto that you're following or you're invested in and it already has several corrections along the way as it's moving up, most likely that is a mature bull run structure. The ones we just looked at have been mature bull run structures for the most part. Casper wasn't. So if your crypto resembles some of these crypto charts that we just looked at, be aware that that final leg up is likely the only missing part, and it can happen fast. What makes a bull run last a long time is the corrections that take place within the bull run. These moves up to the peak or to the next level, those things happen fast. So be aware of that. If your crypto is a mature structure, it's still exciting times because what we're going into potentially is the blow off top of the whole bull run structure. So we do have good days ahead. Just be aware. Don't let your guard down. Don't let greed get control of you. After it prints the peak, it goes into the decline, and that decline has potential to be intense. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. If you found this video helpful, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. If you're not yet a subscriber and you enjoyed this type of technical analysis, this is original TA. You're not going to find this anywhere else. I recommend you hit that subscribe button. I'll continue to follow up on many of these charts. And I almost forgot, for those of you who are interested, I have a Patreon. Connected to that Patreon is a Discord server where we discuss crypto. I have different crypto channels. You're welcome to join. It's a $5 a month subscription. I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description of this video. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.